Today is your last day, Ninja.
Maybe not.
It's the red masked ninjas, wars we throw slicing, scream bloody murder, red moon rising, attack of the killer bees, swarm devastating, fear running wild from the songs that I'm making, no feedback from the cats that be hating, taking souls down to hell, half son of Satan, bringer of the true light, legend of the seeker, last true warrior, ancient soul keeper, one and only ultimate brain decapitator, kill in the moment, ass crushes later, no remorse for the MCs that I'm slaying, the fake rappers are the ones who are paying. Millions come out here to see my recital. On the edge of your seat, words very vital. Dictator, tyrant, man of many titles. Bow down and worship, you one and only idol like
True assassinator, the flying Russian. Words flow flawlessly over percussion. No fake MCs allowed in this cipher. Only number one big scene by Mel Kiper. You can scream loud, but it don't mean you're hyper. Shots be on point like the DC sniper. You better wake up, smell coffee, clear your head. 5 more minutes and you might be dead. Many fake MCs, they cling silver tongue. Black mask enters, and now they neck wrong. Invincible warrior, what I become. Garbage out your mouth, smell just like cow dung. Unconscious rappers, they need to be hung. Ninja fist, brush your lips, now your mouth numb. Rulers of the world got us feeding on crumbs. Modern day slavery, bottom fish scum.
First thing we do, we plan a false flag attack. Sit back and watch how the blind sheep react. They scream for help, we say we got your back. Make up corrupt laws, the Patriot Act. First thing we do, we plan a false flag attack. Sit back and watch how the blind sheep react. They scream for help, we say we got your back. Make up corrupt laws, the Patriot Act.
It's the brown masked ninja, psychotic killer, underground dweller, fear instiller, mass media, soul cleansing devil, true lawbreaker, government rebel, mad mass maniacs breaking in your door when the president signs off for Rex 84. Turmoil, chaos, I don't want no more. Beast on the 7 hills, Babylon whore. Time we wake up, even up the score. Pick around the corners with guns ready for war. Sleepwalking people, the rich and the poor, too oblivious to realize what we fight for. You wanna run down and get baked at the shore. Men plot behind your back, evil at the core. Attack of Illuminati wild like a boar. Words sting like salt that's in the mouth sore. Yo, only speak real truth, there's no way to fake this. Living in a world similar to the Matrix. Chains on your mind, come on, you gotta break this. Way that you're thinking, it's time for awakeness. One way out, man, so we gotta take it. Fight to the end, cause we all gotta make it. The truth is the truth, some of y'all might hate it, or don't wanna hear it, be blind and debate it.
Hear no, see no, speak no evil. Live dangerously like evil Knievel. Deaf, dumb, and blind, man, you're nothing but sheeple. Being led by your nose through the upheaval. Gears keep turning like Pop goes the weasel. Media spread the lies just like the measles. All gassed up like an 18-wheel diesel. New world order plans written on an easel. First thing we do, we plan a false flag attack. Sit back and watch how the blind sheep react. They scream for help, we say we got your back. Make up corrupt laws, the Patriot Act. First thing we do, we plan a false flag attack. Sit back and watch how the blind sheep react. They scream for help, we say we got your back. Make up corrupt laws, the Patriot Act.
Second, y'all, I need y'all to listen. There's something serious going on that you're missing. Some will accept what I say, some dismiss it. I'm talking about the gift of salvation really given. He's living, walked on this earth singing free. Nailed to the cross, shed the blood for you and me. He arose from the grave and he conquered death. Gave us the Holy Spirit on the day he left. He shed his blood for each and every one of our sins. Not worthy of his grace, where should I begin? Don't worry about a thing, I keep my faith in him. Renew my mind, take a look at where I've been. I'm a sinner and straight up lost since day one. God loves us and gave his only begotten not perish, but have life everlasting. Your color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, laws so matter. Color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, laws so matter. I don't think you understand the severity in this, so I'ma speak clearly so that you don't miss the opportunity to get saved, cause time's close. You know deep down God loves you the most, but Satan got tricks and traps in place to catch you, to keep you from God's face. Got you all out of sorts and acting all crazy, child of the devil like Rosemary's Baby. I see you tearing down statues and burning down buildings, but I'ma keep it real, we ain't all God's children, cause some don't like the Bible and some be God hating. See, I'm a child of God, but your father is Satan. God's waiting for you to change your ways and repent of your sins. Do it now so you won't regret not doing it today, because heaven you'll be missing and end up in hell because you don't listen. Your color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, lost souls matter. Color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, lost souls matter. Color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, lost souls matter. Color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, lost souls matter. Color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, lost souls matter. Color don't matter no way, cause you're going to hell if you ain't saved. I don't wanna hear no more of it, I'm tired of the chatter. It ain't about black and white, lost souls matter.
You talking about the snare drum? Oh, that was fast. Hey, welcome.
Yet, but hello, Shawn.
Hello.
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 Hi. Got any
Hi,
news?
how are
Got
you?
any news or updates since last week in your life?
No. Nothing new. Just same old work. Get ready. I'm packing up. Getting ready to go. Packing up. Getting ready to go. That's an old Negro spiritual. Just so you know.
I wrote it because I have an old Negro soul.
Yes, you are. That's why I love you. I mean, I like you. Sorry.
You're allowed to love. It is okay.
Oh, I was trying to be professional.
Well, even professionals love. It's true.
Ooh.
Professionals can love other professionals.
Professional love in all the wrong places. Professional love. Okay, sorry.
Speaking of professional, I need to actually get some professional photo types thing of myself because I did one and I look so pale in the picture compared to everybody else. I'm thinking that is not very good. But yeah, I got to work on that. So I don't know. I don't have a professional camera. I do have a pretty decent camera. Maybe I should. I don't know. You could help me when you get here. You could take a picture. It'll be better.
Sure. Don't you have Photoshop or something on your computer? You can like tighten it all up, you know.
I use an app that's not Photoshop, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. I should probably just have a nice picture that I don't have to touch up too much because that's the problem. Is I tried to touch this one up and I made my face really bright, kind of like it looks right now. It's the light, I guess.
Yeah, that's your light. Because when I was there, you didn't look like that in person.
I'm angelic. Well, we're going to probably upset somebody with this video, but not intentionally. We're just trying to bring some truthful information, not just from a personal experiences, but the law side of things. We're going to look at kind of a history of the law. But before we look at law history on police officers, and you guys are going to want to hear some of this. And I am not an expert on this. I've gotten some of this information from someone who teaches constitutional law. So I'm just talking about it to get it out there until we become experts and we can speak on it like that.
Here's something I got to ask you. You say you got this from a guy who teaches constitutional law, correct?
That's right.
Why isn't constitutional law taught in our schools?
Because they don't want you to know how you can defend yourself in this tyrannical atmosphere.
100. Not only that, but they don't teach the Constitution in schools.
I know. I watched a movie. It was a while ago. It was the guy who was Aragorn in the J.R.R. Tolkien movies, and he was with his kids and lived on a bus with his kids out in the middle of nowhere and taught them to hunt and taught them about the law of the land and the Constitution and all that stuff. And he went to visit his family. And of course, he's some super left-wing guy, right? That is anti-religion, sadly. You kind of discover as you watch the show, or the movie. Excuse me, it's a movie. But anyway, he takes his kids and goes and visits a sibling. I think it's a brother or something. And they say, your kids need to be in school. You need to be teaching them. You're not teaching them the right stuff. So he calls down his siblings' kids and says, can you tell me the Constitution, which amendment, what does this amendment say? Or what is the Bill of Rights? What is the Bill of Rights? And they couldn't answer. And it's just a movie, but it's very accurate because they couldn't answer. And then he had his kids come down and say it, and they knew it like boom, boom, boom. They knew all of that stuff, Constitution, Bill of Rights, everything by heart. And so he's trying to make a point that they're not teaching that in schools. And he was living on a bus and teaching his kids to hunt. And all that stuff was really great. Sadly, because it's a movie, he was of the left-leaning persuasion and very anti-God.
But get to your point, those things that he taught his kids are more valuable than what the other kids learned in school. Like, what do you call it? What's that? I just lost it. But all the stuff that they teach in school is not valuable at all. It's not they're not life lessons that you can take out of school and apply to your life. You know what I'm saying? It's really not.
They're more interested in teaching sexual education and wokeism. Exactly.
Just more interested in indoctrinating your kids into their narrative, into the system, rather than you being a different part or separated from the system. You know, thinking on your own and thinking for yourself.
Well, before we get into some historical constitutional law, we are going to talk about Bob Saget. And the reason that we're going to talk about Bob Saget is not because we like the guy. We don't like the guy at all. And not because...
I love Bob Saget.
Yeah, okay.
Bob Faggot. I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're going to get taken down for that.
I said Saget.
It was a complete mistake on his part. He didn't mean to say it. Anyway,
I didn't say anything.
We're going to talk about him because of his autopsy findings, which I find very interesting. Now, you want to let us know what the general narrative came out saying initially, or even what the coroner, I think, was saying initially?
Yeah, they're saying that he was getting ready for bed. And as he was getting ready for bed, I guess he was like getting under his covers or something. And he leaned back and hit his head, the back of his head, on his bed frame. Well, what is that? The bed
headboard.
Headboard, yeah, on the headboard. And then he said, "Oh, no big deal," and then went to sleep.
He said apparently just thought nothing of it were the words I think I heard.
Yeah, that's. I don't know how many. I mean, we've all hit our heads on something. Like we were talking yesterday. I think it was yesterday about this, and I can't remember how many times I would have like a cabinet door open, and I bend down to get something out of a bottom cabinet, and stand back up, and boom, the back of your head hits that cabinet door.
And interestingly enough, your head is made to be able to withstand that kind of blow, as much as it hurts, and it makes you tears come out of your eyes, even if you're not really crying, because it hurts so bad.
Mm-hmm. And how many? For him just to bang his head on the back of his headboard, the back of his head on the headboard, and that caused this. We're going to talk about. I'm going to let you talk about the damage that it caused, but to cause that much damage, and then for him to ultimately die from that, we should all be dead, because we've all done stuff like that.
In fact, my daughter hit her head on the monkey bars yesterday, and she's saying, "Do I have a bruise?" Oh, and Avalyn hit her head really hard one time when she wrecked her bike and had a huge knot, and then she hit her head on the bottom of a pool doing a backflip in the water, had a huge knot. None of that caused a subdural hematoma.
Here's a quick story. When I was, I guess, 12 or 13 years old, I was playing football. We were on a football team, me and my brother Furman, and we were doing laps. And we were the fastest two on the team. So we were running, and I was trying to beat him. And I'm looking like he's on the right side of me. I'm looking like this. And he's right next to me. And he starts going, "Watch out." And I turn, boom, right into a pole, a metal pole. And knocked me out. I woke up in the house. That's all I remember. Yeah, my dad came. They told me my dad came running over. Everybody was scared to death. I had a huge knot on my head, like you were saying. And I was concussed. And I was in bed. I didn't remember anything.
But you survived, and you didn't go to bed and die.
No, I actually woke up in bed alive.
Great. Well, here's the autopsy findings, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit, which if everybody already knows this, that's fine. We'll get to why it's interesting in a minute. But the autopsy finds that there's an abrasion, which is a bruise on the posterior scalp, a subgaleal hemorrhage underlying the abrasion, which means there was blood pooling of the posterior of the scalp, a linear fracture, which means it's kind of going in a line and not jagged, of the base of the skull. That's back here, the base of the skull. I don't know how he hit his head on the base of the skull, but anyway, that's where the fracture was, involving the right occipital bone and the right temporal bone. Comminuted fractures of the roofs of the orbits, involving bilaterally the frontal bone here. Bilateral partial periorbital ecchymosis, that's the panda eyes. And subdural hematoma, that is a bleed on the brain. Subarachnoid hemorrhage, a bleed on the brain. Now, when it says arachnoid, these are layers of the brain barrier. So subdural is below the dural tissue. Subarachnoid is below the arachnoid tissue. And if you want to look that up, I didn't pull up an image of it, but what that means is there's a bleed on the brain on the right side. So remember, fracture on the base of the skull, fracture to the right occipital bone, fracture to the right temporal bone, multiple fractures on the orbits on the frontal bone, panda eyes, so he had black eyes, a bleed on the brain, and what's called contra-coup contusions involving the bilateral frontal lobes and bilateral temporal lobes. That means his brain went whoosh, whoosh, which is normally indicative of multiple falls, a car accident, or a fall from a great height where you bounce a couple times.
Yeah, like whiplash.
A bad whiplash, yeah.
Or infants, like we talked about, the infants being shaken and the heads jiggling in the brain.
And there's trauma that we've talked about when you get into what the elites, as they call themselves, do to children, which is another reason we would bring up the panda eyes, because it can often involve damage in the brain and damage to the back of the skull so damaging on this particular instance that it damages to the front of the skull and caused a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Now, there was one physician who was trying to say it's possible the subarachnoid hemorrhage preceded the fall, which is why he had the fall, but it's more likely from these fractures that hemorrhage was because of getting hit in the head. It really more sounds like the man was beat with a baseball bat.
Yeah, beat with something. I mean, like you said, to get hit on the back of his head, like he must have been sitting like way up above the, or jumping on his bed or something and fell backwards. You know what I'm saying? In order for it to hit back here, because most of the time when you hit the headboard, it's up in the top here. You know, when you hit your head, you feel it's never down near the back of the base of your skull.
To create a fracture that goes around the right side of your head from the base, around the right side, and then breaks bones in the frontal
right.
orbital area. So here's autopsy findings in writing. It says fractures around the eye sockets. He has an enlarged heart with 95% blockage. I doubt that had anything to do with it. He was on Klonopin and Trazodone, neither of which cause excessive bleeding. Klonopin is also known as clonazepam, which is in the family of like Ativan and Xanax. Trazodone is what helps people sleep when they can't sleep. It's also an antipsychotic. And then, of course, they tested him for the FOVID. And he was positive.
And snake bitten.
And we do know that he had just his booster because he did mention that in a video right before he went on this last, I think, live on stage deal before this all happened.
Yeah. You know, we could go into that if we wanted to. You know, could that be the reason why he deceased in the first place? But I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Well, it certainly didn't cause occipital and temporal and frontal lobe fractures.
That it did not. But could it have caused some type of seizure to make him do all that?
That could be, yeah. Did he fall down a set of stairs or did someone hit him with a baseball bat? We don't know.
Right. Right, but it wasn't. I strongly believe it wasn't a headboard bang.
And the strange thing is if they're going to come out with, if these are accurate autopsy results, if they're going to come out with accurate autopsy results, why would they just ever say? I mean, if police came on the scene for this, he would look horrible. He had the bruising around his eyes. Because of the type of fracture he received, he could possibly have cerebral spinal fluid coming from his nose because there could have been basilar skull fractures because of the orbital skull fractures. Now, I don't know that there was because they were up top and not on the bottom, but it could have been that. You know, we've seen from emergency room situations, me and my mom both, and I've seen autopsy as well. When you have this kind of contra coup damage, it'll often cause some kind of fracture where cerebral spinal fluid will leak from the nose. So he would have had bruising around his eyes, which they admit they saw, possible leaking from the nose. Certainly, they saw the blood pooling on the back of his head. Why would they come in and not think this might be a crime scene? Why would they automatically, immediately say this was a bump on the head and that he went to bed without thinking anything of it? How do they know that? He didn't tweet that. Hey guys, I bumped my head, but I'm going to bed now.
Yo, we just brought up like a great point when we're getting into the cop thing about having reasonable suspicion, you know, to go search stuff. Did they search and see if there was a crime? I mean, if you walk in somebody's house and they have all that stuff on them, the first thing you're gonna think is somebody jacked him up.
You should, and it sounds like one of the physicians that was even on CNN. So CNN is even saying this sounds odd. So I don't know what's going on. But one of the physicians said there should be more investigation. Well, why wasn't there more investigation in the first place?
It should have been the first thing he did was been suspicious. Says something ain't right here, you know, and then do an investigation. So did the autopsy come first before the investigation?
No, there was no investigation. The narrative was first that he bumped his head.
That's what I'm saying.
Felt
basically
fine, went to bed, and then died in his sleep. That's the original narrative before we even got the autopsy results.
So So that narrative has to have come from the police then.
Or somebody who told the police. I don't know.
Or somebody who told, right? Because we don't know. In order for that narrative to have been generated, somebody had to either say that to the cops, or the cops originally thought that, and then brought that to the autopsy, to the coroner, and they determined, okay, that's correct. That's how it works, right?
Right. And then if you look at the autopsy result, I don't have the right one. At the end of this, it does say probable accident. Well, it does say at the top accident, probable accident, but it doesn't say did he accidentally fall down the stairs? Did he, and you know what's really sad is his family said, we now have closure. So it's like his family is in on it too, because they think that there's closure to this.
Yeah,
if that was my family member there, there's not closure to me.
That's not closure to me. I'm asking the cops, what did y'all see? How was he looking? He was all busted up his face and all kind of blood. What is this? That's just not from a bump on the head. How'd that happen? From him hitting his headboard on the back of the head, on the headboard. How's that possible? I'd want more answers. Just like we want more answers now. And we're not even part of his family. We just want to know the truth. Because that is not the truth.
If it was my family, I'd want to know, but apparently his family doesn't. They feel like they've got closure. Staying on the topic, I was going to bring up Heather McDonald, the comedian. Did you have more you wanted to say on this? I mean, we'll still talk about him, so it's not like I'm moving on.
Because we're going to time together, of course, because she was doing her little skit up there, this chick right here, and when she fell, and we talked about this too, when she fell, the way she hit her head, it was very violently that she hit her head. And it looked like the same way an NFL player, when he gets tackled from catching the football in the air or whatever, and they land and they like, whiplash their head and they hit the back of the head on the ground. And they are out. They got helmets on. And when they hit the ground like this chick does, boom, just like that. That's just how they hit the ground. And she is out. Ain't no going to bed. Ain't no getting under the covers. You know what I'm saying? Just to bump my head. I'm just going to lay down. That's what they said he did. I just got a bump. I'm going to go to sleep. If he hit his head as hard as they say, it would have to been like that. And that woman, I'm pointing at the screen like y'all can see me, but
they can see you.
They can see me pointing at my screen. Okay, I'm pointing at my screen. All right.
Well, they can see you pointing.
I know, but I can be pointing at the ceiling.
Well, then you'd be doing this.
I can go like this. Whatever. Stop it.
Are you laying down? Is that how you'd be pointing at the ceiling?
I am laying down like Bob Saget. But she hit her head, and she's not conscious. She's not saying, I'm just going to tuck myself in and go to bed. She's in bed, almost dead bed.
And she goes straight to the hospital.
Right to the hospital. Like this dude supposedly hit his head like that, and then got under his covers and turned over on the side, good night. No, that can't have happened.
So what happened to her, right, is she hit her head just like that, knocked out. Now, she could have passed out before she hit her head, but she didn't wake up from the fall, because when you pass out, something like that can wake you up. She suffered a skull fracture, and look at her eyes. Mm-hmm. Don't you find this interesting that she had a fall like that didn't remotely kill her? She did have a fracture, but she didn't end up with a subdural hematoma. It did give her black eyes, but not fractures, because when you hit the back of your head like that, it probably did the brain thing a little bit, and it caused pressure on the front of the head because of the hit on the back of the head. It just kind of vibrates through your whole head, right? So that's common. But she didn't have any eye orbital fractures, and she didn't have a subdural hematoma, and she bragged about having multiple jabos, including the 3 with the boost, and also shingles one as well.
Yeah, that was all part of her skit. How great I am! I got all the snake bites, all of them.
And
I
that
love the snake
Jesus
bite.
loves her because she's never gotten sick with the COVID either, supposedly.
Yes, Jesus. Yes, because of yes.
So somebody would say that's instant karma, but I'm curious as how these two narratives have come out at the same time. And it's the same narrative. Now she's getting some kind of 15 minutes of fame, And Bob Saget's wife is going on a lot of interviews. Nobody knew who she was before this. Everybody knows who she is now.
Yeah, I know who she was. She's Mrs. Saget.
She's not, but Mrs. Saget is out there doing a lot of interviews and getting a lot of attention now.
What do you mean she's not Mrs. Saget? I'm not saying that chick is Mrs. Saget.
Mrs. Saget's blonde.
I'm saying Mrs. Saget is Mrs. Saget. That's how I know her. She's my friend.
All right. So anyway, here she is with sunglasses on. I guess she wants to hide her dark eyes, but I think this is an interesting part to play. I'm going to play for just a moment. What this doctor says.
I was worried that it was we've seen some weird vaccine reactions, and most of them have been benign, but fainting is one of those things. And I had worried that there was something to do with that, which is I still worry about it because you've never fainted before. And what's a healthy adult fainting all of a sudden? I mean, straight away fainting. That's weird. And there is something called POTS syndrome. Those of you who had it after COVID or after the vaccine know that we get these problems from the spike protein that change our ability to modulate our blood pressure. It's called POTS, POTS syndrome. It's sort of an autonomic dysfunction. And I suspect you had some little version of that. And like you said, had you not been up on stage, you could have sat down and put your head between your legs and probably been just fine. But that you were up there with no place to go, you pushed through, boom, and that's it. Your pressure dropped, and let's take a look at it.
And I mean, okay, go ahead. Clearly, Jesus loves me the most. Seriously.
She could have sat down right there in that stool.
So nice.
Boom.
And they're laughing like they're laughing.
Yeah.
They think that's part. They think it's part of the show, because she's talking about how well she was and got all the snake bites, and then and everybody know, oh, that's funny, you know.
Yeah, and I think so. What I was hoping he goes on to say, which if he doesn't, I'll play it for a little bit longer. But this is an hour and 23 minutes, so I won't go. But he talks about that POTS syndrome. That POTS syndrome is usually quick, like a vasovagal reaction. So if somebody gets a needle and they don't like needles, and it causes their blood pressure to drop immediately, it's called a vasovagal reaction, and they'll pass out from it. But it's immediate. You pass out when you're getting the shot.
So what does this have any? Go back, I think it was last year, to Tiffany Dover. Do you remember that nurse?
Yes, right.
Is this similar to that? What you're saying, or is this more similar? What this lady went through?
Well, I don't know. I'm saying I don't think POTS syndrome is what happened, is what I'm getting at. Because
yeah, but I'm saying, yeah. So I'm saying, is that what Tiffany Dover may have had? Or no, what you're saying, like getting a needle, getting a needle and then just passing out. Was that more like what you were saying and not POTS syndrome?
Yeah. But yeah, she did just get it. Didn't she just get it when this happened? Had she just gotten it?
Yeah. Yeah,
sometimes it's even more immediate than that, where they're sitting in the chair, and as you give them the shot or draw their blood, they just collapse. Like they just literally, I had a guy that was sitting in a chair and he just slid to the floor. It was like in slow motion. He just slid to the floor.
You know you're going to be receiving the vaccine? I did, yes. So, all of my staff, we are excited to get the vaccine. We are in the COVID unit.
She got it already. She's about to go out now.
My team will be getting first chances to get the vaccine. And I know that it's...
Quiet, sorry.
Really... I'm sorry, I'm feeling really dizzy. Oh, I'm sorry.
So if she had just had her jab, then that could be what kind of he's talking about, which is more likely. But this gal was way after the fact. Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be a number of things. She could have been dehydrated. She could have been tired. She could have not been eating that day or for several days. We don't even. Right. The speculation is through the roof. Of course, everybody's going to say obviously it's all the jabs because she just mentioned it. But to me, there's some weird connection between why is this happening at the same time that his happened, and why did he die and she didn't, and I don't really have an answer for that, but I just find that it seems oddly connected in some way.
I agree, and I want to just touch on Tiffany Dover again. Whatever happened to her? We never heard nothing.
Yeah, there was a lot of people believed that she died and that there was a stand-in, and people were going nuts, and the family was, I think, even filing lawsuits against all the people that were telling them that she was deceased when they were saying she wasn't deceased, and it was very interesting for a while.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, but I have to agree with you that there's something weird about this whole situation. And I have to go back again, because we're talking about the police part of this in the second half of the show. I have to reiterate, how did they not investigate that as a crime? Let's say they busted in there and I was standing there. Would I have been a suspect? You know what I'm saying? If let's say I'm just standing there and I had no blood on me, no nothing, they bust in the room and they see him in that condition, wouldn't they look at me?
You would hope so. I guess, it's just very strange. It's very strange that they would walk in and go, oh, this looks like an accidental bump to the head with no indication. It's not like you wrote a Post-it note and said, hey, anyone, dear anyone, I bumped my head and I'm going to bed, but I feel fine.
What would lead police to come to that assumption unless somebody else said it to him? Somebody had to have been there and said, oh, he was just laying there fine. He sat up and he went to put up under his covers and he bumped his back of the head on the headboard and I thought he was fine, so I went to sleep with him. I mean, there's no other explanation to why police wouldn't look at that as a crime scene and not an accidental thing.
He would have looked horrible. He would have looked just with the black eyes and everything. Right. He would have looked pretty devastating.
You would have to treat that as a crime scene. Like you said, somebody either told them the narrative or they just terrible police, didn't feel like doing their jobs, and just said, accident.
Which I doubt even, because he would have looked so bad. I just kind of even doubt that they would have just done all of that. I don't feel like they would have just walked in and said, oh, I don't even think they're bad police. I just feel like there's some kind of strange narrative. It seems like the two stories might even be related. And again, it's all speculation. I can't even tell you why she fainted. Like I said, she could have been dehydrated. She may not have eaten. She may have been tired from not sleeping. We don't know.
Been high.
We don't know. But what we do know is that fall from whatever her height is, that fall was bad enough to give her black eyes, but not fracture the back of her skull to the side of her skull and her frontal bones. Yeah. So he would have had to fall from far higher or multiple falls to suffer the damage that he suffered. And it's just a strange narrative to say it was accidental. Just very strange. And we don't know. We just don't have answers.
Well, that's why we're here. And y'all got any answers out there?
Nobody's suggesting anything. So, I mean, and we already know that he's not a likable dude. We already know that we're not saying we liked him or we're sad or anything.
I love Bob Saget.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I'm not saying that. I forget that you're a big fan. But yes. I tend to think that people, sometimes there's an assumption that we're somehow promoting the guy, and we're just saying it's a very interesting story and they seem connected. But even if they're not connected, you could say, look at how hard she hit her head from 5 feet, let's say. She fell directly. She fell and did one of these. Mm-hmm. And she certainly didn't get a subdural hematoma. She didn't fracture her temporal and frontal bones. It's just nuts that they would even try to give that as a narrative, that he just bonked his head. He didn't, he'd have been coming down from like 1 foot or 2 feet. She's fallen from 5 feet.
Right.
And he suffered massive fractures, and he doesn't have a bleeding disorder, and he's not on blood thinners, according to the autopsy.
He had more damage than her?
Significantly more. She just had a fracture where she hit.
Right, okay.
She had a fracture where she hit. He had a fracture at the base of the skull,
it went all
the right occipital, the right temporal, and both frontal bones in the orbit of the eye. So these two bones right here.
Mm-hmm. Somebody cracked him with something. Pop. Pop, pop, pop.
No, like it's not like it's not like he's so well known and hated. Well, he is hated, but it's not like he's out there with a group following and hating him that I would think somebody had to end his life right this minute with a baseball bat. No more shows for you. So it's not like we're sitting here speculating that even he had some kind of enemy that came in. But it just, the damage does not match the narrative, and even CNN is asking questions. So it's just an interesting comparison between the two. Anything else you want to say about it?
No, because I'm gonna act stupid. So I plead the fifth.
I'm curious as to what that means, that you're going to act stupid.
I was gonna say something stupid.
Well, if anyone is interested in that stuff the information we've collected, I have it all in the Discord. Not exactly where you can see it, but if you want to see it, I can provide that. So we said we were going to talk about police and some history on police. But first, I want to remind people that that police are going and doing things that are anti-Second Amendment, anti-Fourth Amendment, anti-Constitution on a regular basis. We did a whole video, 2 videos, and I'll pull up Odyssey to show you guys that's where it is, because I can't put it back on YouTube, because when I had my original channel, YouTube took it down. It said it went against the policies or something. So we had this first edition, which is an hour and 43 minutes long under Odyssey. If you just go to my channel, I'll put this in the YouTube, because that's where most people seem to be coming from. But we did 2 videos talking about police. We showed videos where police were doing excessive things beyond what is ever needed. And we're now learning why they do this and how they're trained. And what we said before, Shawn, is that we know they're trained to do these things, but there's actual laws and Supreme Court rulings that allow them to do what they're doing merely because their safety is more important than your or my life.
You know, I think we've said this maybe even in this show that you're showing here, that that when they do their own investigation, they know they're going to get away with whatever they do. Whatever they do, they're going to get away with it. Unless it's even if it's a high profile case, I'm not even going to say that. Even if it's a very high profile George Floyd type case, they're going to get away with it because they're investigated by their own people. It's like the Washington Redskins football team, whose owner is under investigation for sexual misconduct and stuff like that, and he's investigating himself. So of course it's going to come out he didn't do it. You know, he has his own investigators investigating him. That doesn't make sense. That's the same thing as the police here. The police are investigating themselves. And we said this before, but this guy's really going to bring it out when we go into his video. He's really going to bring out and point out how they do this and why they do this and the rules that allow them to do this, all the laws and things that they have in place that allow them to do these things that we don't even know about.
And your favorite presidents have been a part of it and behind it.
Love them all. Good guys. It's Valentine's Day yesterday, so I have to love everybody because I missed it. I forgot it was Valentine's Day. So happy second day up there.
I was going to say, don't say it.
Second day. Don't say it. Happy is this, the 15th, right? Happy day after the 14th.
Speaking on that real quick, I will mention that I have a daily devotional. And for 2 reasons, I'm pretty bummed with these. Geez, I wonder if we're still live. Let me check. My Discord is being funky. I think we are still live. Anyway, if you're in the chat, please give me a 1 or yes or something if we're still live, because my Discord started acting funky. Anyway, I was bummed to see that the daily devotional that I read, first of all, they believe in a globe, but second of all, they put that they don't really know the history. Thank you, guys. They don't really know the history of Valentine's Day. And I'm thinking, how do they not know the history? It doesn't take hardly anything. They don't know it,
and they don't want to know it.
They don't know it. Well, why would they say they don't want to?
I thought you just said that they don't want to know it. Okay, go ahead.
No, it's a daily devotional that says they don't really know the history of Valentine's Day. And I'm like, why wouldn't they know the history of Valentine's Day? It doesn't take any time at all to figure out. And they're like, well, there was many Saint Valentines throughout history. I'm like, what about Lupercalia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't mean nothing to them. Luper who? Lupercalia? That's my sister's aunt's mother's name on my brother's side.
Twice removed.
Yes.
Whatever that means.
What does that mean? 2 times after? I don't know. Continue.
I don't know what it means. Okay, so we're still live, so thank you everybody for letting me know. I didn't pull this one up to read it, but I did want to point out that this alt-right podcaster is charged. So they probably got swatted, which is when they come in to your house and try to kill you and your dog for no good reason. That they could say, well, we clearly had reasonable, articulable suspicion because this podcaster talked about their arsenal of fully automatic guns or whatever. But anyway, this violates their Second Amendment right by going in, swatting this guy, taking his guns, and charging him now for owning them because guess what? He owned them illegally, Shawn.
Ooh.
Can you tell me? Go ahead.
You gonna do is let me ask you a question. I'll answer your question, or let me just say it.
I want you to tell me where it says in the Second Amendment that it is illegal to possess any of these particular firearms.
It doesn't say that. Actually, it says that your right should not be infringed, which means that you should not have to go get a license. That's an infringement. Did y'all know that your Constitution says that you have the right to bear arms and that it shall not be infringed, which means that licenses, any type of checks, balances,
permits,
any of that, permits, any of that, any type of NRA system check thing they got going on, that's an infringement. It's an impediment. It's to stop you or hinder you from having your rights. And it's a hindrance. How many people don't get guns because they have to go through all that? And they might be clean and not have anything on their record and just don't want to go through all that. It's an infringement. It's a hindrance. It's an impediment. It's a reason for you not to get it. And it's against the Constitution.
Background checks put you on a list as owning guns. It puts you on a list that you own guns and which guns you own. Especially if you have to register them.
Everything is traced from there on.
In Montana, you do not have to register firearms and you can sell privately. So at our gun shows, they're all private sales. And in Arizona, you can't do that. At the gun shows, they won't let you buy a gun without a background check.
I don't know. I don't know how you guys out there feel about it, but I have a God-given right to protect myself and to protect my family. I don't need permission from the government to own any weapon. If I want a cannon, I can have a cannon. If I want a bazooka, I can have a bazooka. That's up to me. If you want to come in my house and attack me and I got a bazooka, that's on you.
Trivia question for you, Shawn. Do you know who was the first president to put a major ban on firearms?
I want to say Donald Trump, but
no, you gotta go back further.
I'm going back further.
But you're right, he's a Republican.
Okay.
Told you earlier today, I thought you'd get this.
Well, I
wasn't actually trying to put you on the spot. I thought you already knew. It was Ronald Reagan.
Oh, you did say that. I was going there. Trust me. I was going around Reagan.
Yeah, so it's that's who it is. That's who it was. And I'll get into that in a minute. But remember, I said that getting swatted is, well, it's dangerous. They'll kill you or kill your dog or both. Mm-hmm. But just in case you didn't think they were doing enough swatting because you think that's a good thing, did you see what the ATF put up on their Twitter feed? Yeah,
I actually saw the tweet thing. And yeah, it was pretty, I don't know what to think. I didn't know what to say. I was just laughing at it. I'm like, this is just idiot. It's a bunch of idiots out here. And to put that up there to turn in your loved one because they have a gun or they committed a crime with a gun or they did something suspicious with a gun. Come on. What about knives? Don't throw them for knives, just for guns.
There was a recent knife attack.
I know.
That was 3 hours long.
I know.
That the police couldn't seem to stop over a 3-hour time period.
It's knife violence.
It's knife violence. A knife got up and started attacking people.
It's not funny. I'm not laughing at the attack. I'm laughing at how they call gun violence, and knife violence. They don't, you're not going to promote knife violence because it's not a gun. But violence is violence. There's no, and has nothing to do with an inanimate object. It has to do with man's heart, man's evil heart. You will kill with whatever. You can kill somebody with a pencil. You can kill them with a toothbrush. Come on, man. People get shanked all the times in jails with stuff. You know, it's not about the object that you use to kill them with. It's you killing them. Period. I don't know. When I saw that, I just thought I was just like, whatever.
It was pretty interesting that they would say that, and there was some responses that were pretty good. It's like the ATF going full ATF, and it didn't say call in your loved ones. It actually said, are you basically angry about over a former or current? I guess you're right. It does say or current partner. Oh my god. Yeah, or current partner. Yeah. Want to make it fun, even if you broke up? Let us know, and if anyone involved in illegal gun activity, and we'll make sure it's a Valentine's Day to remember. Really awful. Yeah, but they can go out and stab somebody. Don't call us for that. Over 3 hours, that guy got to stab people and nothing happened to him. It's crazy. So, yeah, the ATF says email or call 1-800. And did you wonder? I was wondering how many people might have actually called in. Somebody did. You know they did. They won't put this out there. They won't put stuff out there. They don't think people are going to do it. They know that they got people so brainwashed nowadays. They could, like we were talking about the autopsy, how they could put out anything. They didn't have to make it so violent, you know what I mean? But they did. And maybe that's what he looked like. Or maybe he didn't look like that. Maybe they could put out whatever they want and people are going to believe it and people are going to act on it. This could come out and I guarantee you at least 100 people acting on that. At least. Probably. That seems like a low number too. That is a low number. I like this one. It says, Dear the ATF, I would like to report my ex, Hunter Biden, who was involved in illegal gun activity. Happy Valentine's Day, Hunter. Signed the Second Amendment. About somebody should report some police. I'll have to report the cops. Don't worry. If you report the cops, they will do an internal investigation and they'll get to the bottom of it. That's right. That's the best thing to do. If the cop violates you, call the cops. There isn't a situation that can't be made worse by calling the police. That's true. And if your best friend or your family member or your buddies are, cops and you say they're good guys, well, they are until you do something to not comply. If they were to pull you over, and then I think you're going to find that they're not your friend anymore. Once you go, ma'am, step out of the car. But Robert, we're friends. Just step out of the car. It's for your safety. I have a question. It's for my safety. No, not this. It's for my safety that you step out of the car. Right, because I'm not safe until I escalate this situation. I'm not safe until I throw you on the ground and snatch you up in some arm bracelets and ankle bracelets. Then I'll be safe. Which is torture and humiliation, especially if you've done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong, but as long as you're sitting in that car, I'm not safe. Okay? That's right. What about if somebody is walking across the street, not on a designated crosswalk? Do you think that's dangerous enough for a cop to kill somebody? I think that if you're walking across the street and you're not in a crosswalk, that the police need to come up there and stab you. Because that way they can't shoot you, but they can stab you. Okay? Well, that's where you're wrong. They have special rights, and theirs is not gun violence. That's not gun violence. That's right. That's police safety. That's being safe. We're gonna talk about, and Sean's laughing because he knows that there is a law for police safety that allows police to shoot you and kill you for their safety. Anything, as long as they say, "I feared for my safety." And as far as jaywalking, no, you shouldn't be harassed for crossing the street, but not within the crosswalk. That's if you want to cross the street and you're not in the crosswalk and you get hit, then the person that hit you technically is not liable. Now morally, should they have seen you? Maybe if they weren't paying attention when they were driving and they hit you. But the crosswalk is there so that it brings attention to the driver. And in some states, in some cities like mine, we have like a big sign in the middle of the road, right on the yellow line where the crosswalk is. It has like somebody walking on it, a sign with somebody walking. So it lets you know that this is where people cross at. So we slow down. We're supposed to slow down. And if somebody is in the crosswalk, and let's say I'm on the right side of the street and they're on the left side, and as soon as they step in the crosswalk, I'm supposed to stop.
and let them cross and then go. That's the law of New Jersey. I don't know about laws of other states. I know New Jersey laws, we stop when people enter the crosswalk. Even if it's massive traffic and somebody just step out in the crosswalk, everybody's supposed to stop. You know?
There are some states that the law is that jaywalking isn't even illegal or whatever, until you get hit by a vehicle.
And that makes sense. See, here in Jersey, it's illegal because we're supposed to be in the crosswalk. But if I'm not in the crosswalk and I'm jaywalking, which that's what they call that, the cops, if I'm crossing the street here, I could get arrested for that. They don't do it. Maybe one brave cop might do it, but I've never seen it. But we could get arrested for that. But if I'm crossing the street and I get hit and I'm not in the crosswalk, that's on me. It has nothing to do with that's my fault. I'm supposed to watch where I'm going too. They always try to legislate morals. They're always trying to legislate morality and people and trying to use laws. It's like the war on drugs. You can't legislate that. You can't legislate people taking drugs. If they want to take drugs, they're going to take drugs. If you want to own a gun, you're going to own a gun. You cannot legislate morals. People are going to be who they are. You want to legislate morals, then get everybody saved. People get saved and you become born again. You become a new creature in Christ, a new person. You don't do those things. You don't want to do drugs. You don't want to drink. You don't want to do things that you shouldn't do. But you can't. See, this is man trying to be dependent. We did our Bible study last week, and this week was going to be, I think, Genesis 20. I think we'll do it next week. But that was Abraham and Lot being dependent, trying to depend on themselves and be independent of God. And that's what we have here. We have man trying to say, we'll tell you what to do. Don't listen to what God says. We're going to tell you. We'll legislate the laws. We'll tell you that you shouldn't do drugs. It's not their place to do that. I went to a whole different area, but that's because I got a suit on. I'm a reverend today. Go ahead.
Well, basically, this video goes on to show that after they tackled this guy with, I don't know, at least 3 cops, and I'm not going to watch the video because you guys can watch it. I'll drop it in the YouTube. But after he gets tackled by this many police officers, or at the time that he's being tackled, he apparently reaches for one of the officers' weapons. Now, let me ask you something. If you were tackled by multiple police officers because you were crossing the street, not at a crosswalk, would you be fearing for your life?
I'm fearing for my life. There's no reason for you to tackle me. Just leave me alone.
If they had Kevlar suits on and weapons, multiple weapons, guns.
Whose life is in danger there?
Right. So when I commented on this video on Facebook, I said, this is too bad that this man had to die for such a small thing as crossing not on a crosswalk. And that these people in their little clown suits and because they get to wear costumes with a gun, can do this. And somebody said, did you even watch the video? He went for the officer's weapon. I really don't care. Here's what happened is this would have never happened. It would have never even happened if they didn't harass him because he was jaywalking on the street. If they would have left him alone, he wouldn't have reached for the officer's weapon. If they didn't have 3 people tackling him, maybe he wouldn't have reached for the officer's weapon.
That's point 2. There's 3 people there. How many lives are in danger? Yeah. If he's wrestling for one cop's gun, what's the other 2 doing? Waiting for him to get it out?
I guess so. So they killed him.
That's not, my point is, whose life's in danger? You still got 2 of your boys. If I'm in the fight and I'm getting jumped, it's me against 3 dudes. My life's in danger. Not the 3. I got to worry about the other 2 dudes that are trying to jump me.
That is a great point. Make it a scenario where it isn't police. Make it a scenario where it isn't police and see what people say about that.
Yep. Because it's the same thing. It's nothing different. They're people. They are people. People put cops up on a pedestal too much. And they're just people. If there's 3 of them and 1 of me, they are jumping me. And there's no reason for it. And they got guns. So I'm going to try to get a gun so I can protect myself. I might not use it, But I'm gonna say, get back, get back.
Right. If there's 3 people that have guns that are attacking you, you would definitely try to get one of those guns.
You're gonna try to get one of them guns. You're gonna do whatever you can to protect yourself the same way that they say that we have to protect ourselves. We fear for our safety. We fear for our lives. I fear for my life. You just ran to tackle me because I'm crossing the street. Like you said, imagine you're walking across the street and 3 dudes just run up to you and tackle you. What are you going to do? You're going to say, you're going to sit there and comply. They say, just give me your money. Okay, sure, buddy. No, you're going to fight. You don't know if your life is in
Some people might say, sure, buddy. I don't know.
Some idiots might say, sure, buddy, and let them do what they want. But I don't know. I know I'm not. I know most of the people that I know ain't. I just told you the story about my friend that got jumped by 3 people behind the liquor store. Remember I told you that? You know what he did? He fought. He fought. They were trying to rob him, and he the only thing he did wrong, he said, I should have put my back against the wall so they couldn't surround him.
Right. Right, which is, yeah, if you make it a scenario where they're not police officers, and you say, this guy was walking across the street when 3 guys with guns jumped him, you know, by the way, nobody's going to jump in to help this guy because they're police officers.
Yeah.
But if they were 3 guys with guns that just jumped a guy for no reason, apparently no reason, which is really no reason. I mean, jaywalking, do you really need to tackle a guy in the street?
Oh, he broke the law. That's a terrible crime.
Which goes to show you that a police officer will kill you over a small infringement, a minor infringement.
It's not even an infringement. You're free to travel to and fro wherever you want. There shouldn't be crosswalks. I'm saying that my city and my state has these crosswalk laws, but there shouldn't be laws. Why is that? Why can't I just cross the street wherever I want? Why do I have to cross inside this crosswalk? Oh, because that way cars can stop. Well, cars should be stopping anyway, wherever I'm crossing at. Or I should be looking at where I'm crossing and making sure there aren't no cars. Ain't that what we tell our kids? Look both ways. Maybe I should look both ways and make sure it's clear to walk and then walk. And if I see a car coming, maybe pick up my step a little bit and get out the way.
Right. Right. Because if you get hit, then you're at fault.
That's my fault. I should have been out there. It's the same thing as people that do drugs. If I'm shooting heroin and I overdose and die, that's my fault. I should have been shooting heroin. My ex-girlfriend was at some dude's house getting stuff, called me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, he's trying to rape us, man. What? What are you doing there? You shouldn't be there. Oh, you're trying to blame the victim. I'm not blaming the victim. You made yourself a victim. You shouldn't be there. You should be at your house.
And these cops wouldn't fear for their life if they wouldn't have tackled this guy for crossing the street.
They wouldn't have had nothing to fear. Just let him, oh, you cross the street, okay. How many times have the cops crossed the street like that? Never? You trying to tell me that they never walked across the street, they never jaywalked? Ever? Even right now at this point where they're at as police officers, they never walked in plain clothes and crossed the street and never jaywalked.
Mm-hmm.
And how about if one of them was doing it and 3 cops came and jumped on him because they didn't know he was a police officer?
Yeah. Well, just look and see what happens when police officers pull over other officers, and then they say, "Oh, I'm an officer. I work with so and so." And they try to make it like they're just making small talk, but really what they're doing is telling them.
Yeah, they're telling them. You don't arrest me. I'm like you. I'm one of you.
Code of silence.
I'm one of you. But remember what happened to that one cop that got his house broken into and was stabbed, and the cops broke in and shot him. Shot their own cop. Remember?
There was a great one too where this cop was trying to tase a guy and he tased his partner.
The bottom line is police officers, stop putting them up on a pedestal. Stop acting like, because we've been taught that they have better morals than us. That's why they're allowed to carry guns. That's why they're allowed to carry guns in places that we're not allowed to carry guns, in federal buildings and on school property and stuff like that. And that's why they're allowed to speed up and down the street. That's why they're allowed to walk around and tell you what to do, because they're supposed to have better morals than you. Do y'all believe they have better morals than you? Do you really believe that? You got to be insane to believe that. And just because somebody's walking across the street, you're going to, 3 guys got to tackle him? If anything, why can't one guy say, hey, buddy, stop doing that. Use the crosswalk. Why couldn't you say that? And then the guy went, all right, my bad. No, nobody's life's in danger. Nobody's getting killed. Nobody's tackling nobody in the middle of the street. Let's tackle him in the middle of the street.
Because they are trained to escalate every situation possible, because they don't just have qualified immunity, but they can kill you because the Supreme Court has ruled that they can shoot you while you're running away if they want to. And they will not be legally held accountable, not because of qualified immunity, but because of Supreme Court laws that have allowed this very thing, their safety, to trump your civil liberties.
Let me say this. You just said that there's the Supreme Court ruled that, right?
Yes.
How many cops know that rule? I bet you they all know that, right? But do they know the rule that you don't have to have a license to drive?
No, they don't know that, but they know that
they don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
They only know the laws that the Supreme Court drops that benefit them. That's what they care about. What about the ones that benefit us? What about the ones that say that you're a traveler, you're not a driver, and that you're allowed to drive unimpeded, without any impediment by anybody, if you're going to and fro, without license, without insurance, without tags? You're supposed to be allowed to do. That's what they ruled that. I'm not saying that. You're not saying that. That's what the Supreme Court said. Well, why don't cops uphold that law? Why don't they say, what are you doing with the license plates? You don't need those.
Because their whole goal is to bring financial, they make a lot of money. And I think like the average police officer in California makes like $400,000 a year.
Ooh, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Because you know why I say it's a lot of money? Because you're making that much money to have power over somebody. You know what I'm saying? You're making that much money, and they give you power on top of that. They give you authority on top of that, all that money. So now you're like a king. You're like, I have riches and I have authority, and I can tell people to do what I want them to do.
The power, whatever power it is, whether it's the power to control you, tell you what to do, money, whatever that power comes in, people, when you give them power, most people, power corrupts. And I'd say, really, unless it's a true scripturally living person, then it will corrupt. And like we say, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So they are given absolute power. They are given absolute power, and I'm going to go over this commission report, this commission that was done in 1972 a little bit, not a lot, because I haven't read hardly any of it. I've only watched a video kind of going over it because it's a lot to read. It's many pages long, but it's certainly something I could read and can understand, and so can you. But it talks about these things that they decide upon with each other. You know, they are going to have secrecy, that they are going to protect each other, and that they are going to make sure that they know that their internal affairs isn't going to rat them out. So that gives them absolute power, but there's also a bit of bullying, like, oh, we know what you know. It's part of that power comes with, they might rough up a person a bit too much, and they're going to hold that over their head. And so you can be a good guy going into this. But if you stay in it and you keep a position of power, you're not a good guy anymore. You will become a corrupt police officer.
Let's look at every agency, from the president to the governments to every other agency. Isn't that how it works everywhere?
Yes, because we're talking about positions of power.
Let's go back to the Bible days. What about Lot? Lot had a position of power. Had Lot stayed there, what would have happened to Lot? His heart was already turning towards them. His daughter's heart and his wife's heart was already there. He was turning. But the point is, Satan does, and that happens in churches. Don't pastors have power and money? Don't they get stuff held over them? Oh, we seen you with that young woman. You better tell us what. Isn't the 501c3 the same thing? They tell you what you can and cannot preach, or you don't get this tax break. This is Satan's plan through everything. Ain't nothing different. Satan has been doing this plan since day one. He uses the government. He uses people in power. And he's been doing it since then. He's doing the same. Nothing's changed. Just different players in the game. But the same game.
Okay, so I'm going to play this video for just a little bit because I want you guys to hear what this guy has to say.
Is Ohio. Terry versus Ohio puts officer safety over your civil liberties and changes the case, allows police to knock, announce, and come running in your house. That happens now 100,000 times a year in America. 100,000 times a year.
I'll go back a little bit more because he mentions this one, but I'm not going to play the whole video, but you guys, I'll drop the link because you should listen to this guy and do some of this research. It's pretty interesting.
Kerr versus California case allows police to knock, announce, and come running in your house. That happens now 100,000 times a year in America.
Let me read that one real quick. Kerr versus... Oh, I had that a minute ago. Here it is. Kerr versus California. Kerr is made possible by Brinegar versus United States 1949. Quote, probable cause exists where the facts and circumstances within the officer's knowledge and of which they have reasonably trustworthy information are sufficient in themselves to warrant a belief by a man of reasonable caution that a crime is being committed. So just because they believe that there are circumstances in which there is a crime being committed, they can enter your home and they can pull you over and search and seizure. The care has been cited by subsequent decisions both for the holding of the Fourth Amendment and for allowing warrantless search and seizure with probable cause or to prevent destruction of contraband. So basically, they're saying if they believe what's supposed to be called articulable suspicion of a crime, if they feel like there could be a crime, this Kerr versus California gives them the right to come into your house.
And you see how wide that is, how broad that is. If they feel, what could that be? It can be anything. You could be driving and you might swerve from a squirrel or something, and they could believe you're drunk. Now they got probable cause to do whatever they want.
Right, because then they could, that's why they'll tell you don't open your window more than 2 inches, but there's some state laws that say you have to roll the window all the way down. So you got to know your state laws. I can't help you with that, guys, but there are some state laws that say if you don't roll your window all the way down, you're doing something illegal when a cop pulls you over. But let's go on and listen to this guy.
100,000 times a year. Kerr versus California is then the basis for Terry versus Ohio. Terry versus Ohio puts officer safety over your civil liberties and changes the probable cause standard to reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion is now a reason why you can be detained.
Get on your knees. Hey, I have the right to investigate, detain, and arrest you based solely on my suspicion.
The jurisprudence of Terry v. Ohio says that officer safety is the most paramount thing in our world. It goes over your civil liberties, over your right to life, everything. So because this is the resounding message from the Supreme Court, they'll then make laws based on officer safety being more important than your civil liberties. In Pennsylvania versus Mims, it says you have to get out of the car for officer safety.
But you're threatening to drag me out of my car and pepper spray me.
Now, I need
you want
to
elaborate?
you to your car for my safety.
How safe is it for you when you get out of the car around police? It's not very safe. They're going to detain you, meaning they're going to put you in handcuffs, which is torture. Handcuffs are torture, embarrassment, public humiliation, and physical torture.
I am not resisting. I'm making sure it is being known. I am not resisting. Okay. My hands are up. One hand on this camera. My seatbelt is being arrested. As long as your hands are up, that's fine. I'm not resisting. As long as your hands are up. I was unlawfully. Sir, please do not touch me, sir. Keep your phone out. Sir, please do not touch me. See, that's what we're coming to a disagreement. It's not about I'm giving you to the count of 3. Sir.
That's great. That guy's
it's like little kids.
He's somebody's friend. He's somebody's family member, and that person thinks this guy is a good cop.
That's a good one. That's somebody's friend. Yeah. He might be friendly to you, but what if he's not friendly to somebody else? Does that make he's still a good guy? Maybe he's nice to you, but look what he's doing to this dude. That's a real nice guy. He got great morals, doesn't he? He's a moral, upstanding citizen. Would you do that to somebody?
Yeah, would you just, because if they weren't doing what you asked them to do? I mean, like your child. Let's take our children, for instance. If your like you said, you're talking to them like they're children. If my daughter didn't do what I was asking her to do, should I get in her face and scream like that?
Should you do that? Should I snatch him up? And what would you do if you was driving down the road and seeing somebody who wasn't in a costume? Just a regular guy dealing with a regular guy like this in his car screaming at him. Wouldn't you call them? You would call that dude to go stop what was going on in that car. Or you would get up and say, stop doing that. Well, what's the difference? Oh, he's got a badge and he's got a costume on. That's the difference.
Which is why people won't intervene for fear of them. They'll be arrested or injured. So they'll let it happen. They would walk by and watch a situation and be like, well, I don't want anything to, they might film it, but they're not going to help and intervene or do anything. Whereas they might if this was not. In fact, they did a whole, there was a video on this police officer that pulled over, had a traffic stop, and the guy got out and started running. And the police officer then chased the guy. And when he finally tackled the guy was trying to get to his gun or something. And he was even trying to tell some lady nearby to help him. This guy was running from the police officer. He wasn't running toward him. He wasn't throwing rocks at him. He wasn't trying to shoot him. He didn't have a weapon. But when he got tackled, same type of scenario, he was trying to reach for the weapon. And a good Samaritan, the whole thing was about what a good Samaritan this guy was, and they were trying to find him, came and helped the police officer. So what if this guy was being chased by a carjacker with a gun? Mm-hmm. If he's being chased by a carjacker and being held down, would that same good Samaritan come and help the guy with the gun? Or would he help the guy that was being tackled by the guy with the gun?
Good point. What do you do? Costumes make people think that it's the whole costume thing. You can wear a doctor's coat and say doctor words, and you'll be respected. And you'll be respected. You can wear a scientist coat and say scientist words, and you'll be respected. You can look presidential and say presidential words and act like better than Joe Biden, and you can be respected. Even Joe Biden's respected, and he don't even speak right. But because he has that title and he has that persona of I'm the president. The same thing with cops. They have that title and they have on that uniform, that costume. The same thing with Fauci. The same thing. People look at these people and they revere them as there's something better than you, and they are not. I only speak this because this is setting up something. They're only people. They make mistakes. They do wrong stuff. They don't turn the blinkers on when they're making a left turn. They don't always do that. They don't always follow the speed limit. They don't always stay on the scene if they have an accident. They don't always walk in crosswalks. If you're going to have your morals, if you're going to tell people that you're morally better than me, then everything that you do has to be right. Everything you do has to be right. Otherwise, you're the same as me. Go ahead, you're good.
Well, I was going to say that, and they are supposed to be public servants to us. So they should not have special rights over us, and we should remember that. That doesn't mean we're going out to start a fight with them. I wanted to bring this up that this is a commission report that was 2 or 3 years long, and there was 2 other reports, the Knapp Commission and the LaGuardia report, that were each 2 to 3 years long. I think it totaled 7 years back to back. They weren't all done at the same time. Back to back of commissions and investigation into the police force in general. And I mean, this is amazing. Just, I'm going to go through here, and it's called the Mullen Commission, as you saw up here, because one of Milton Mullen was the chair judge, judge or whatever. These are judges or something, or could be, anyway. Look into it. I'm just learning about it. I'm just covering it for you on a very superficial bit that I've been able to look at it. But it goes into the police corruption and drugs, the new character of police corruption, crew corruption, methods to create corruption opportunities, Methods to escape detection. This is a whole commission on what they researched and found. The profile of today's corrupt cup, the erosion factor, mixed motives behind the corruption, theft from street dealers, also called shakedowns, theft from radio runs, theft from unlawful searches and seizures, raids, doing doors, booming doors, theft from lawful searches and seizures, lawful, that one says, but they're also talking about unlawful, theft from car stops and drug couriers. So they're stealing. There's a whole chapter on them stealing. Cops protecting and assisting narcotics traffickers, cops as drug dealers and user distributing and using drugs, perjury and falsifying documents. This was 1972, if you're wondering. Police violence and brutality, the link between brutality and acts of corruption, the link between brutality and police culture. Chapter 3, the code of silence, us versus them. That's them versus you and me. Us versus them mentality, the code of silence, the erosion of values and pride. It just goes on, moral character and fitness or lack thereof. But look at, a chapter on, this is all a commission into the corrupt police force. The creation and corruption of the department's integrity system. Spreading accountability, the new anti-corruption apparatus, the collapse of command accountability, willful blindness. And let's go down to this Internal Affairs Division, which I'm going to read something about what they've ultimately decided about internal affairs at the end of this. Favoritism towards high-ranking officers. This was a 2 or 3 year study. I think it was 3 years study on police corruption. And it was put out in 1972, and it wasn't the only one. It was 2 before that. And what's been changed since then? Not a thing.
Absolutely nothing.
Let me find this one I read to you earlier. It just takes me a second to get there. There we go. So internal investigations, internal affairs operations. It says over the past few, so 2 years for this one. Over the past 2 years, this commission, the media, and recently the department itself have focused a great deal of attention on the litany of failures of the department's internal anti-corruption apparatus. As the commission has reported, our investigation revealed a corruption investigation system that often minimized and even concealed corruption rather than rooted it out. And you can say, well, that's just obvious. We know that. But this is investigations that were put out to the public showing this. And everybody says, well, I have cops who they're friends of mine and they're good guys. Oversight of internal affairs was virtually non-existent. Intelligence gathering efforts were negligible. Corruption investigations were often deliberately limited and prematurely closed, and the appearance of integrity was more important than the reality. So they wanted to appear that they had integrity. They didn't care if they really did. They didn't care. Right. In short, genuine commitment to fighting corruption had virtually disappeared, and Internal Affairs had abandoned its mission to remove serious corruption from the department. What does that tell you?
I have nothing to say. It's just everything we've been saying is what we've been saying. It's right in there. They've been investigating this stuff. How can you sit back and say that this isn't, that the cops are, I can't. The cops are good guys? Come on. They have that opinion, like it says in there, they want to look the part, but they don't play the part.
It says that it is exactly what it says, that they were more important about looking like they had integrity than having any integrity, and as if anything's changed. Oops, I'm not going to buy this poster. Let me go back here. Where are we? Okay, so on this video, this guy has a huge timeline. It's just amazing, this timeline that he has up on his wall. This guy's very knowledgeable. He's the one that teaches constitutional law, and here's his YouTube channel. And you don't, maybe you like him, maybe you don't. Caution, he does use curse words sometimes. Not in this video. He didn't curse once that I heard. But there was one video where he was. So if that offends you, don't watch it. But, I mean, this massive timeline of all these different lies, and it's pretty fascinating what he's put together. Or, I assume he's put it together because it looks like construction paper or something. It looks like he's done this. And of course, you couldn't just walk in and make a lot of sense out of this huge. I was trying to see if I could get him backed up from it, if I could. But anyway, he shows all the different laws, the crime bill of 1994 and what that's done, all the way back to Reagan, where these bills have increased how many people are going to prison. And he says the only reason it levels out, if I can find a spot where it kind of shows where it levels out. Oh, here's Ronald Reagan talking about his thing. It levels out because we couldn't afford to jail so many people, so many prisoners anymore. There you go. See where it starts to level out. Not because we had a good president come in and change it, because this was in Obama's time still. So, but anyway, it's hard. It's hard. I know that there are some people that are stuck on this left and right thing. In fact, today when I tried to explain that Donald Trump was the one that locked us down, he's the one that thinks that the jab is a modern miracle for humanity. He's the one that was promoting the booster with Bill O'Reilly. That person said, I don't listen closely enough to anything he says, that I should be reading between the lines. Here's the thing is, it's a left-right paradigm. It's not, he does, his ultimate conclusion was, well, you just don't like Donald Trump. I don't dislike the guy. I have no personal beef with the guy at all, because I've never met him. And I probably would enjoy the guy if I met him. He seems like a pretty likable dude. The thing is I just know that they're two wings of the same bird, and neither one of us is working for us. And all you have to do is look at history to know that. I used to have a lot of respect for Ronald Reagan before I realized he was the first president to put a major ban on guns and other things. And he's been to Bohemian Grove and things that if I don't want to look at it, then I'm going to go, he's a great president. I don't want to look at these things. I'm not just, no, you didn't read between the lines. There's code there. You're supposed to decode this. No, it's simple. If they're taking away your rights, it's not a guy that's on your side. That's all. And quit voting for the left or the right, and quit jumping on board on just the left and the right, and look at all sides. Because has it really made your life worse to say, I'm not going to be a Republican or a Democrat? Is your life better for it or worse for it? It
doesn't make a difference which one you are. You're better off not being one, either one. You're better off not believing in anything they say. You're better off looking for your own self.
That's what I'm saying.
In your own stuff.
That was my thing is, are you better off for taking sides or better off not for taking sides?
Yeah, I kind of got what you were saying. I mean, I got what you're saying. Maybe I just cut you off and said what you wanted to say. Probably that's what it was.
You answered ultimately. I should have just be quiet. But yes, it's better. You're better off not grabbing a side, left or right. And you could say, well, this one's better because somebody could go, what do you prefer, Biden? That's where people always jump. What do you prefer, Biden? Well,
that's why I said to you, that guy probably thinks that you like Biden. Remember I said that to you? Because the only other thing they put out there is Biden. If you don't like Trump, then you must like Biden. But that's how people think. Maybe I don't like neither one of them.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not even gonna call myself independent. Maybe I just believe in Jesus Christ, and I don't believe in none of these fools. I don't want to listen to none of these fools. I ain't doing none of these fools say. I'm gonna do what my God says. How about that?
Right. We're gonna live scripturally. And that's the way that we're going to do life. But knowing these laws and understanding how the left and the right works behooves us. And understanding our rights too. Because while this particular video doesn't offer a bunch of solutions to what you can do about this, because it kind of bummed me out. I don't know about you. I was like, dang, I didn't realize that these police officers were given so much power with these laws and Supreme Court laws. So I can fight with Supreme Court laws that they don't know because they don't know them. And once it gets to the courts, I can actually do pretty well. But dealing with police officers is going to be difficult because what this guy goes on to say over and over and over is we need to fight the Terry stop. And that's that Terry versus Ohio that says that their safety is utmost and over yours, and they can stop you for anything they want to, anything. And it's not just the qualified immunity they get after the fact. It's that Terry versus Ohio Supreme Court law that allows them to come after you for nothing, for absolutely nothing, for crossing the street where it wasn't a crosswalk.
Yeah. Absolutely nothing wrong. There was no crime committed. There's no reason for them to go after that dude. And like I said, how many of them have done that? Have crossed the street, not in the crosswalk? How many of their kids? Would they want their own kids? Did they have that? Would you want some other cops from another part of town jump on your 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid because he's crossing the street, not in the crosswalk?
Yeah, right? No kidding.
How is it like that?
And they do that. They've jumped kids before. I've seen it happen. They'll tackle kids to the ground. In fact, Officer Brandon Tatum, thinks it's okay to soften up a young kid because he's back the blue. He's all about back in the blue.
Yeah.
That's why Brian calls him Soften Up Tatum. Soften him up Tatum. Because he said that. He's like, well, you got to soften him up, because this cop punched a kid.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw that one. I think I saw the one Brian did.
Yeah.
That
Soften
video.
him up Tatum. I mean, why?
Just think about it, though. Think about a police officer that has a 17-year-old son who's crossing the street, not in the crosswalk. He's jaywalking, and 3 cops come and jump on him. Would that cop like that? No. He would say, you couldn't do that. Why you jump on him? He's just crossing the street, for crying out loud. For CHRIST's sake. He's just crossing the street. That's what he say. But that only works if it's not that cop doing it. That cop was jumping on him. Oh, he's violating the law. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how we sit here and back the blue. I'm not saying go out there and do anything against them. I'm not saying go out there and fight them. I'm saying know your rights. That's what you're saying. Know your rights. Because they don't know your rights. You know your rights. Like I said, I bet you they all know that come home safe because they preach that every day, every morning. Every morning in their morning meetings.
Every time somebody ends up dead, what do they say? I feared for my safety.
I feared for my safety. And in the morning time, when they have their morning meetings and they're sending them out to their assignments, they say, come home safe to your family. That's the number one thing.
That's right. And they admit that. Because people have accepted that as being okay. For them to do whatever they need to be safe, but while escalating every stop. Yeah. Every single stop. That while escalating every single stop, their safety is utmost over yours and all your civil liberties.
Yeah. So put that in perspective when they're brainwashed to think that to come home safe no matter what. Put that in perspective when that guy is crossing the street and they tackle him, and the other cop and the cop is wrestling him, and the guy's going for the cop's gun. What are the other cops thinking? Come home safe. Come home no matter what. You go home. That's what they're thinking.
So knowing that, we have said there are good cops out there, but I don't think those good cops are working anymore. That. And I said it probably the last time we talked about this, but I don't think they're on the job anymore. I think if there ever have been guys that are out there to do good and change the system, if they're still trying to do good and change the system, they got bullied out of the career, put on a desk, but I don't think they're still out there on the streets.
And I had to, and when you said it to me earlier, I had to rethink them. Like, you know what, you're right, because they get weeded out. They might still be there, but in due time, they will be weeded out or ostracized. One or the other. Put that into perspective of a politician, somebody that you might know, somebody that's really, could be a good friend of yours, that's a moral person, a Bible-believing Christian, and he gets into politics. What happens to that person? They change.
They're given power and it corrupts them.
Power corrupts them. They change. And they either can't do it no more because they're convicted so badly that they have to step down, or they change to the other side.
Right. That's why I said I thought about getting into local politics, but I couldn't go very far because I'd have to start towing the party line. And I don't think about it anymore, but there was a time. And even then I'm like, well, I wouldn't be able to get very far if I even got into position at all. But I wouldn't get very far because I won't toe that party line. I won't be a Candace Owens. I won't be a Charlie Kirk. I won't be, what's the guy from Project Veritas? James O'Keefe. Right. I'm not going to toe that party line that looks like I'm fighting the good fight, but I'm really not. Because even James O'Keefe is supposed to be a journalist, and I've seen him allow cops tell him he can't be somewhere, like he can't stand somewhere. And I'm like, well, I don't see crime scene tape, but James O'Keefe is like, well, okay, pretending to argue with the police officer while he walks away and goes to where the police officer tells him to go. I don't know.
If you were to get into that, you would come to a point where you would have to choose, because they would approach you with money. They would approach you with the lobbyist. All that they would come to you.
Right.
To vote for their things, to get their things in, and we'll do a charity event.
which benefits you in your pockets if you're the one they're coming to.
$100 a plate, $1,000 a plate, whatever it is. People come in there, spend $1,000 a plate, 10,000 people. You got $100,000 in your pocket. It's for your charity. Your charity ends up being your pocket. You have to make those decisions. And the reason I can say that, I haven't been in politics, but I've been in the music business. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They come to you, if you want to get big in the business, and let's say you start to have a huge following, and they start to notice you, and you're starting to make changes, and you want to get bigger, they will come to you and they will give you an offer. They'll give you an offer, and then you got to decide, do I want that offer? And if I take the offer, then you got to jump through their hoops.
Yeah, and in the hip hop industry, I mean, it's all bad. It's all bad, but particularly it's for men in the hip hop industry. If you're not already gay, they're going to make you gay.
The whole point of that is to tear down the black man. They tear down the black man by making him feminine. You don't want a strong black family, a father in the family. You don't want that.
No, and they were the strongest family unit at one point until we sent them off to war, and then anyway, it starts there. The strongest family unit was the black family. Yeah,
and it goes all into the boule, like you was talking about. It goes all into that. Goes all into. That's why it's so important that y'all watch her video. It's very important that y'all watch that video. Is it still up? Is it on Odyssey? Or is it back on?
Well, I have like 6 boule videos, or maybe 9 even, and I did finally make playlists on my Odyssey. So you can go to this Odyssey channel, and when you look at the content, you go to the main channel. There's a playlist. Oh, I have 12 videos up, and so one of them says Boule, Boule, and then that is going to be a playlist of all the videos that are all up on Odyssey still. But because this is a new YouTube channel, I haven't uploaded them all. So, and if you're watching from Facebook or Twitch or DLive, mainly, obviously, you know that YouTube is where I upload a lot of the videos. But now everything I've ever done is that from the old channel, not the new channel, because I can't get it to attach. But everything I've ever done from the old channel is up completely without any censorship on Odyssey still.
So that's important that you look at that, because she breaks down the whole history of how they did all this stuff, and that's that they don't want that family, and that's what I'm only bringing this up because what we're saying is this is the plan that's been used in every aspect of life, basically. You give power to somebody, you can catch them doing something wrong, then you can blackmail them. You give them power, they'll get lust. That lust for power and that lust for money takes over the people who are humans. And that's what happens. That's what happens to the police. That's what happens to politicians. It's what happens to musicians, celebrities. Because once they taste that money and once they taste that fame is like power to them, because people will listen to you if you're famous. You have a type of mind control over people. People believe what you say because you're famous. People follow you because you're famous. So for celebrities, that's their power. They're not given political power, but they're given a platform, and they already have people worshiping them. So if LeBron James comes out and says, go get the snake bite, 90% of people are going to go get the snake bite that follow him because they love LeBron James. They wear his jersey. They have his mark.
You make a good point, because that guy was trying to, real quick, I just wanted to mention, hold your thought, but that guy was arguing with me that I didn't read between the lines of what Trump was saying about the jabs. I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to decode. Meanwhile, he reads between the lines, and I wasn't listening close enough. So what about all the dummies that just hear, the jab is great, it's a miracle for humanity? And I'm not saying they're actually dummies, but he's saying that. That's what he's saying. They're the dummies.
And we both talked about that, about how he was telling you to read between lines. What kind of truth is that? Who tells the truth and hides it?
That's not transparent. If I have to decode what he's saying, then what about the dummies that can't decode? And again, I'm not calling them dummies, but he's basically saying that they're dummies because he's implying that if you can listen close enough and read between the lines, and you'll understand what he's really saying. Well, there's people out there that don't do that.
And I don't even think you're saying they're dummies. I think you're using dummies as a term of saying ignorant. People that don't look between the lines, that don't
or
want to look
can't
between the lines,
or can't,
or just don't feel like it. I don't feel like digging through something to figure out what this guy's saying.
Right.
Why can't he just tell me what he's saying?
Right. That would be an honest person. That would not be a snake oil salesman, right? A snake oil salesman would be talking in code.
And hide it all in here and hide it between here and hide it under there. So you don't, because he knows you're not going to want to think. Just going to buy all care. Just give it to me. I don't want to know what it's saying. Just give it to me.
So if Trump's saying it's good, get the jab. It's a modern day humanity miracle for humanity, as he said. I try to get. I don't think he said modern day. I think he said a miracle for humanity. And I'll get the booster too because I got mine. Then if you're just trying, if you believe what he's saying, I know there's a lot of people that got the jab because he said so. I know they did
because they have faith in him. Their faith is put in that man. Whatever he says, they're going to believe. They don't want to look through and figure out what he's saying between lines. They think that what he's saying is what it is. So that what else could he have said? What lines were there to be read between when he says, "Go get the snake bite"?
It's a miracle for humanity.
What line is there? What are you reading between? He just said it.
Oh, because he wasn't mandating it.
It doesn't matter if you're mandating it. He don't need to mandate it. You know why? Dude doesn't know what he's talking about. He don't need to mandate it because they are already following him. And Donald Trump knows that my followers will do whatever I tell them, so I don't have to mandate it.
That's right. But I wasn't going to keep on arguing.
That line?
Yeah, and I could have kept on, but when you realize it's a time to stop arguing when they say, "Well, I can tell you just don't like the person," and that's why you disagree with what they're saying.
And that's all he has to offer you as a rebuttal. You just don't like him. You're not reading between the lines, and I'm not even giving you lines to read between. You're just not listening to what I'm saying.
I should listen a little more closely.
No, dude ain't listening. You know what I'm saying. I know what you're saying. I'm mad. But dude's not listening to what you're saying.
He should listen more closely.
Yeah, he should listen more closely because you're not giving him lines to read between. You're telling him straight up that he said that. And it's because he said that people are going to do it. I'm telling y'all, they're setting up the Antichrist. I'm telling you. Everybody's following somebody. Everybody's following Fauci. Somebody's following Trump. Somebody's following Biden. Somebody's following Tom Hanks. Somebody's following Ellen DeGeneres. Somebody's following somebody. Nobody's on their own. Nobody's following God. Everybody's following man. And then there's going to be one man that comes in and fixes everything. And everybody's going to say, forget all them. I'm going to follow him. You watch.
We'll be watching.
I'm not saying when, babe. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I'm not saying when. I don't know when. We don't know when. It may look like it to some. It may not look like it to some that this is the time. But that time is coming, whether it be in the next year or the next 700 years. That time is coming when there's going to be one man that Satan is going to use one man to get rid of all of the other men that he has used, all of these other dictators, all these other celebrities and people that have gained the trust of their followers. So their followers just simply just blindly believe everything they say. They're all going to be gotten rid of because at some point they're going to look like idiots. Ain't that already happening now? Don't we see idiots in charge now? Eventually somebody's going to say, you guys are all idiots. I got this. And he ain't going to be an idiot. And he's going to fix stuff. And people are going to be like, that's the one. He's the savior. I love him. I'm going to wear his jersey.
Yeah. And his Make America Great Again hat or whatever.
And his Make America, look at that, babe, look at all that. Look, they got the hats. They got signs for all these guys. What do you think is going to happen when the Antichrist step on the scene? They're going to wear his jersey without him even asking them to wear his jersey. He's not going to mandate them to wear a jersey. They already gonna have his jersey on.
That's what I said in a video. I think it was my Invasion of the Body Snatchers video. I said this is going to be something that people won't be forced to take, because if you force it, the mark doesn't work if it's forced. It'll be something that people will be running for. It'll be something that they will be begging for.
They're going to want that. They're going to want his mark.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing when the Bible talks about getting forced to take it, people, that's going to be the cats that ain't here. That's the cats that's here that don't want him, that know who he is, that understand what he is. And be like, I'm not worshiping that dude. And then the people that you know that do worship him going to look at you like, why not? Why come you ain't going to worship him?
Why come?
Why come? Look what he did. Why ain't you don't want to worship him? That's for the black folks. Why
Yes.
come? You won't worship him. Look what he's doing. He's great. They're going to look at you like you're an idiot, like you're funny, like you're stupid. What's wrong with you? Those of us that do not worship him, that's where that mandate's going to come in. Because when the mandates come down, them other people going, I don't care.
We're already doing that in so many ways.
That's no big deal. I can do that. I love that dude. I'm going to put his jersey on.
By the way, trivia question.
Okay.
There were 2 other presidents that had "Make America Great Again" as their slogan. Do you know which ones they were?
I'm not a president guy. Robert Wagner.
Yes. Robert Wagner was one of them.
Yes. Willem Dafoe.
The guy from Unsolved Mysteries was the other.
Robert Stack. Yes.
It was Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan.
William H. Clinton? Was his name H or P?
I
William
don't know.
Polk.
But
William.
Bill and
Billy
Ron.
Bob. Billy
Bill
had make America great again. So Trump and that's how
and Reagan.
And don't tell me that Trump went and Hillary and all them ain't friends. Don't come on, y'all.
They're cousins. They're blood related.
Come on, y'all. This is everything that we see in this world is world wrestling entertainment. Everything. All your sports fans. Look, I'm a sports fan. Don't get me wrong. I love football. I coached football for 25, 30 years. I love football. But I know that the football that we watch on TV ain't the same football that I coach in the little leagues. I know them little kids ain't throwing games. I know the referees ain't throwing games. But I know that them football games and the Super Bowls and all them referees is throwing games. Because they're getting told to throw games. They're getting paid to throw the games. It makes the game flow better. It makes it more entertaining. It makes the score the way they want to go. And it makes the team they want to win. It makes you feel good when that team wins. It's the same thing in basketball. It's the same thing in world wrestling entertainment. The referees, everything is scripted, y'all. The whole world is a stage. And we are all actors in it.
Unless you're living scripturally, and then you're doing well.
Then you're not part of that. You're not part of that play.
Right.
You in a whole different play. You in a play that's spiritual. You're fighting. You're in a play where you are an ambassador. You're an ambassador for the Lord, and you're looking down at these other people saying, y'all shouldn't do that. Y'all shouldn't follow these actors and these actresses. Y'all shouldn't follow these mandates. You shouldn't believe that. You shouldn't believe in 6 Foot Killer because it's not there. We're saying that. We've proven it. And your eyes have proven it. Because your eyes don't see it. You hear stuff. Oh, yeah. You hear this person had it. You hear the news say 7 million cases. You hear that. But you don't see it. You hear that the earth is a globe. You hear people say it. You hear teachers teach it. But you don't see it. Do you see it?
Are you asking me? No. Oh.
No. Because I know you don't see it. And not because of what you learned, because your eyes done told you already.
They done tell me.
They done told you.
All right. Well, I think I'd like to wrap it up, unless you had something else you really hadn't said yet. I know you gotta get my little babies, our little babies. So
So go ahead and just wrap it up. And we'll get back on Monday with Bible study. I think we're doing Genesis 20, correct?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I keep saying, I say Monday all the time. Maybe I want it to be Monday from now on.
It can be if you want.
I know you were going to say that.
Yep, chapter 20 on Tuesday. Because this Thursday, me and the girls, God willing, are going skiing. We're trying. We didn't get to go skiing the last time we tried because of high winds. That's like, it never happens, and they had to shut down the whole hill. This never happens, but the day we went to do our first, I've skied before. It's not my first day of skiing. I grew up skiing. Anyway, it'll be their first day. So, would you like to close us out in a prayer, please?
Sure will. Everyone, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for bringing us together today, for giving us an opportunity here, Lord, to show the truth about many things, Lord, not just about your word, but about the world that we're living in, because the things that we're showing people, Lord, is not an earthly thing. This is a spiritual thing, Lord. These are men's hearts and men's wicked hearts and men's wicked plans that we're trying to expose here and show people that things aren't what they seem, Lord. Things aren't what people are telling them. And we're only trying to open people's minds up to see the truth. And we may be somebody's enemy because we tell them the truth, but Lord, that's the truth, and the truth will make you free one way or the other, or the truth will make you hate me. But if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. I'm not afraid to speak the truth, and Aaron's not afraid to speak the truth. And Lord, we hope that when we do tell people these things that we're telling them and show people the things that we're showing them, the truth that we're showing them, that we will open up some eyes and open up some hearts and open up some minds, and that people will start to understand that this is not a physical battle. This is a spiritual battle, that these things that we're showing people and the reason people are acting this way is because they are following Satan. They're following his laws and his minions and his mandates and everything that he brings in. And they're following him because they're his kids, Lord, not yours. Everybody's not God's children, as people always say. And we know that, Lord. And we're here just to wake people up to the fact that this is a spiritual warfare that we're in. And people are evil, and they want to be evil, and they will be evil. And that's their intentions. And that we have to be aware of them and be sober and be vigilant, because we know that Satan, he cometh around like a roaring lion to defeat us, to take us, to eat us. And we need your heart. We need you in our hearts, Lord, and your strength and your guidance to keep us sober so that we can be vigilant and be ready for the wiles of the devil, Lord. I thank you so much for everything that you do for everybody in the chat, for all of us, Lord. And I ask you to continue to bless this ministry and to continue to bless everybody's families out there and keep everybody healthy and safe, Lord, throughout the day and throughout the night. And just thank you so much for everything that you do for all of us, Lord Jesus. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen, amen. Thank you for closing out our video in prayer, and thank you for your opinions and everything you share. And I think it's fun, and also, it's upsetting maybe to learn some of these truths for some people, but we just pray that the truth would be told coming from our one true Most High and not just your or my opinion, that people would hear the truth and we'd be conduits for him. Amen. So with that, I'll end it with some music, and we'll say peace, everybody.
Happy tomorrow.
Yeah. Happy Tuesday turning into Wednesday.
That's right.
Until then. Bye.
Have an obligation to yourselves, to your families, and quite frankly, I don't want to be criticized for this, to your country. Get vaccinated now. It's free. It's convenient. I promise you, it saves lives. I honest to God believe it's your patriotic duty.
Mass psychosis, hypnosis, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Told you this, reminisce, think about it, research it for yourself. Highly doubt it. Followers of sheep herders, stay compliant to your masters. Lead you by your nose to disaster. Pedal to the metal as they plan moves faster. Hypnotize television news spellcaster. I'm a blessed this to your brain cells for your head up. well. When not until it makes your head swell. You took the wrong pill, now you're falling down the track. It's a rap, cause you believed in all they bullcrap. Spider web, black widow type, just as dangerous as the snake bite. Poisonous venom, creeping through your veins, ready to attack your DNA, and there ain't no going back. 6-foot killer, high cases quoting, scaring you into taking 8 potions. Alien dialectic, blending motion, said this was gonna happen. I ain't gloating, I'm trying to warn you, keep you safe, but all I get is scared out my face, taking up my space. Warrior for God, sounding alarms, but I'm prepared if I gotta take up arms. Shut your brains off, get your snake bite, do what you're told, boy, you better act right. We're here to help, so you shouldn't put up a fight. Prepping you to bow down to the boss light. Shut your brains off, get your snake bite, do what you're told, boy, you better act right. We're here to help, so you shouldn't put up a fight. Prepping you to bow down to the boss light. Let me make this clear, what you gonna hear. Boosters every 3 months of the year. Remdesivir, killing patients. Drug dealers, rulers over nations. True story, man, when you gonna get a clue? Do what they say, don't do what they do. Rules for thee, not for me, that's their war cry. Keep your mask on outside, you will save lives. No surprise when their lives break down unstable. They're not built on solid ground. Jesus the rock, I keep my faith in Christ. Not the snake bite, Dr. Fauci's all hype. Dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. Ninja fist, brush your head, make you think right. Blind to the things of this world, you need sight. Cognitive dissonance makes you wanna fight. Black goo coming through, third man DNA. Bible prophecy, moving fast our way. Worshipping of the beast, already doing this madness. Take his mark from it with gladness. Enough of this crap, I done had it. See with that mask on your face, I wanna grab it and trash it. Tragic, how they make you follow like blind mice. You be on your knees praying to the Antichrist. Shut your brains off, get your snake bite.